Hello everyone.
Hi everybody.
Welcome to the stream of Unity of Command 2. This is Daniel Melvin speaking. I work as a scenario designer, a historical researcher, and a ton of other crap on the game. And I'm here with Mr.
Hi everybody, my name is Ante. I'm the marketing person and the janitor.
You're doing a lousy job of that.
Which part?
Well, let's not talk about that.
Right.
Let's get that. Let's get into the game.
Right.
We have started up a new campaign. The campaign UI and interface is still, it's a work in progress, but it's closing in on how it's going to look. And we're basically going to play the first 3 scenarios of the campaign. Take a peek at the 4th one, but yeah, after that we'll see what we do. Maybe a standalone scenario. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. This is exactly the same thing we are showing at Tokyo Game Show, right?
Yes, exactly. This is for the people who aren't there.
Like us.
Like
we're not there.
Yeah.
But our envoy is, and he just safely landed in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And if you are staying home, this is exactly the same thing that we are showing over there, except maybe even better because you don't have to play. We'll play it for you.
Exactly.
I mean, you are going to.
I'm going to play. I'm going to play.
Okay.
And we'll see how I do this time in playing and speaking at the same time. Apparently, it's more of a challenge than I thought. Anyway, let's start the campaign. In this game, you play as the Allies in World War II, and the campaign starts sort of at the end of the war in North Africa, or the campaign there. For those of you who know history, right after the time the Allies or the Commonwealth broke through the German lines at Mareth, and they reached the next German defensive line, which was a wadi, which is like a dried out river called Wadi Akarit.
Is there a special reason we are starting the game at this point in time?
It just seemed like the most natural jump-off point, really. If we start earlier, then we need to start modeling the Desert War in detail as well, which we'll do at a later stage, but since we're going all the way to 1945 in Berlin, the end of the war, it's a pretty big scope already, and this is where we chose to cut it, basically.
Alright.
And it's where the Americans enter the war as well. It sort of really changes here. It's a turning point of the war. The Germans have just lost at Stalingrad. They lost at El Alamein and got kicked all the way almost out of Africa. They still have this piece of land in Tunisia, which they reinforced heavily. So we get some interesting battles there.
Oh well, let's see them. People have been staring at the
Yes.
screen for some time.
Yeah, this is not the most interesting thing to watch. I'm gonna do some things that I won't explain in detail.
So we are not starting yet.
We're starting sort of. Right
Kind
now
of,
I'm
right.
upgrading our headquarters.
Do your thing.
And I'm going.
What was that?
That was my headquarters upgrades. Now I'm going into a different thing, but after this I will explain the upgrades. So here we have two headquarters in this scenario, the US 2nd Corps and the British 8th Army. I won't go into detail about all the icons and upgrades here, but basically you can upgrade your headquarters with different abilities and give them more command points so they can use them more often, and tons of other stuff. But let's get into the game, not too much about that.
Right, we'll come to this later.
Exactly, we'll come to it later. And also if you have any questions that we don't answer here on the stream, just write on our forums or on the Steam forums and we'll answer them there. Very quickly, right?
Almost immediately.
Exactly. Okay. So, So as I spoke about before, first scenario, Wadi Akarit, let's get into it. I love loading screens. And at the beginning of a scenario, you get a little historical context and a briefing and, relevant information. Anyway, so here's the setup for, let me just turn off the labels, the setup for the first scenario. Basically, we have down here the British 8th Army, and all along this front here we have the British 1st Army and US 2nd Corps. And what the Allies are trying to do at this point is they are trying to break through. There are some mountain passes here in Tunisia. Here, here, here.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Yes. There we go. And these passes, they are basically trying to break through them and go to the coast as fast as they can to cut off the supply lines of the bulk of the Axis forces, which are down here. And my plan right now is to actually be a bit sneaky and break through here and cut them off up here at the edge of this. This is called the dorsal ranges. There are sort of mountainous terrain in Tunisia which is kind of impassable for tanks, trucks, and such. Yeah,
right. But we do have our objectives on the right side of the screen.
Yeah, there is.
And we have two of them as victory conditions.
We have two primary objectives here in Sfax and up here in Enfidaville. These we need to take before turn 6 to not lose the scenario. Then we also have these 4 bonus objectives, which are more harshly timed. It's basically, it's kind of almost impossible to take them all, but you can get a few of them and then you get rewards for them. But you don't have to take them to win. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I am going to start down here with the British 8th Army. Let's just end the deployment phase. There is a deployment phase, but to avoid information overload, we're not going to go too much into that. Let's see, we're going to start with our Indian troops. And here I'm going to show actually what's called, we have you can make special attacks. And what I'm going to do here is a set piece attack. And I'll explain it later. Basically, it's good against fortified positions. And these guys were fortified, and we pushed them back. Let's see. So while I'm doing this, you can talk, because we learned last time that I'm not very good at talking and playing at the same time.
Oh, I'm not talking either. I'm just watching the master at work.
Okay, so we broke through their lines and cut off the, this was the Africa Corps in this position actually, and they are now cut off from supply. If we go into, we have supply views, we have our own supply view here, and we also have the enemy supply view. And since we cut off their lines here, now we can see everything is out of supply here, which for them is a bit of a disaster, but for us it's really good.
So it's almost as it was in the original Unity of Command.
Yes, it is.
Where supply played a major role.
Supply plays a really big role here. I mean, you can win by just pounding through the enemy, but the most effective way is to cut off people's supply, surround units, and weaken that out.
Like you did now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see. And we also have our 2 bonus objectives here, and I'm going to try to get both of them. But this unit, nah, this would not end well for me. Here, and we're going to do tanks, and down here I can show another headquarters ability. Usually you can move, what do you call it? You have 3 movement points with the unit, and you can use extended move, which uses your action point for 1 more. But now you can also use the headquarters down here to motorize them to go here. And this is an ability for the allied units to simulate their greater degree of motorization. And down here in the south, we're just going to leave a blocking unit because they don't really have anywhere to go here, so we're not scared about them down here. We're just going to leave this one guy and move everything else up here to our 2 bonus objectives. Further in the north, we have the British First Army. And let's see what we can do here. Here I'm going to use something called saturation fire, which is basically lots of artillery. And my RNG always sucks. Okay, that did nothing. Yeah, well,
we'll get them next time.
We'll get them next time. I still have a very strong tank division here, so we're just gonna smash into them. They didn't retreat. That's a bit annoying. This could pose a problem. We'll see. Okay, let's see. And up here, we have an Italian that's fortified. Basically, there are 2 levels of dug in. You can see here, these guys here in the mountain range here, they're dug in. They have the little sort of shovel symbol. And these guys up here have this black sort of brick thing. That means there are 2 levels of dug in, which mains, as we can see here, it's basically suicide to attack them. So instead we're going to use the set piece attack again, which is very good against fortified units. It usually lowers their level of fortification, and you don't lose any dudes. We're having a bit of lag with the recording software here, but yeah. Okay, so that pushed them out of the way. That was actually really good RNG. Anyway, let's see. But when you use set piece attacks, your units get stuck in place. It's sort of a breakthrough tool, but you, yeah.
But it basically ends my move.
It does.
So to speak.
Right. It does. So let's push back. I think we're about done for turn 1, which has been a good turn. Yeah. Ooh, we have an airstrike. I forgot about our airstrikes. Up here in the corner, we have our theater assets. There are a lot of different ones. Here we only have 2, aerial recon and air attack. And since we forgot to use it, let's just find the most powerful enemy unit and see if we can damage them. We have, who is this? 21st Panzer Division. It's an elite armored German armored unit, which would be a good idea to try and weaken. So let's... Yeah, that's okay. That was an okay roll. Okay, and I think we are about done. Anything you want to add?
Oh no, just
We'll just go.
end your turn.
Let's see what the AI does. I can have a drink. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, he decided to just form a front line here, but he didn't try to break out, which is lucky for us. Let's see. Okay, we have to take, to get the maximum amount of prestige, we have to take Svax up here by turn 3, and we're already at turn 2, so we need to get rolling in that direction. And these guys are now not a threat anymore because, yeah, they're cut off from supply, so once they've been cut off from supply 2 turns, they can't attack anymore.
So how do you know they have been cut off?
We saw that last turn. If we go to the enemy supply view, they are cut off. There are these little red exclamation marks, which means they've been out of supply for 1 turn. If you go to 2 turns, it turns into a very glowing exclamation mark, and 3 turns to a black one. And at that point, the units start falling apart by themselves.
But they are still operational.
They are still operational right now. It takes...
They are dangerous?
No, they're not. Offensively, they're not dangerous anymore, because...
Of the red mark?
Yeah, next turn they can't attack anymore. They had their chance this turn, but they didn't take it. And we also have 1 unit out of supply here. And here's a new feature in the game compared to the original, which is again an headquarters ability, which is called emergency supply. Our 2 tooltips haven't been done yet. We're still in alpha. Anyway, you just press that little sucker and poof, he is now supplied. But it does cost command points, and you don't have an infinite amount of those, so it's not something you can do to all your units. Okay, let's get rolling towards Svax. Let's see, which would be the best way to go. I'm just going to turn on hexes for a little bit. Let's try to screw up this guy here. That's annoying. Okay, right. Stubborn, very stubborn. Oof. I don't want to use this guy, but I might have to. Yeah.
We still have some air power.
We still have some air power, but I really want to use it for this guy up here.
Ah, right.
But this could mean that we... Oh, I might have overpaid. Let's see. Another new feature, stragglers. When you kill enemy steps, the strength of them, we call these little dots, that's the strength of the units, we call them steps. Every time you kill an enemy step, there is a relatively high chance that it turns into a straggler. And that's the icon you see here and here.
Can we zoom in?
We can zoom in. We can also rotate. Let's see. Okay. If you have 1, and you run over it, you take them prisoner. Take enough prisoners, it'll start showing you stuff in the fog of war. Once you get up to 3, then they start impeding your movement. So it costs, I think it's 3 movement points to run over them and take them prisoner in general. It's sort of to simulate how if you're killing a lot of enemy formations or losing it, your own stragglers also block you. So if there's a lot of combat going on, a lot of casualties, it turns into this sort of chaos of war where you just it gets tricky to operate for units in areas that are full of basically disorganized troops. So that, since we have, oh boy, we have a swamp here and 3 stragglers here, so we can't really get rolling towards Sfax, which was the plan. But, if we get there a turn late, it's not the end of the world, just a bit less prestige. Okay, and let's make sure we keep this front covered so there is no escape for our dear enemies.
Can we advance along the coastline?
We could have if... Ooh, that's actually a good point. We might still be able to. If we use our artillery to get these guys weakened and armored brigade. Yes, I see. Although we don't have anything to... Last turn we forgot to check our supply for these breakers. So that's okay, this guy might move here, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so these guys are out of supply. So let's add a supply hub. The way, this might be a good time to talk about the supply. The way the supply system works, if you have your sources at the edge of the map, see here, and where else do we have one? Up here. And the rail lines that extend from those sources, they bring your supplies forward endlessly. But supply only emanates 1 hex from these rails. So once you start leaving the rail lines, like here, then you're done. The supply doesn't emanate that far. So then you need to place supply hubs, which essentially they spread supply. It's easy to show if you just place one. Here. So now I placed one, and the green outline shows you how far that supply hub spreads your supply. And you can add up to 5, and each one you place means it spreads further. Right now, though, I only have 1 available, and it doesn't... Okay, these guys...
So how does that work? Do I earn more of supply hubs?
No, every scenario has a set amount. Predefined set amount. You can in the campaign obtain some extra ones through cards, but actually we have one. Show it now. In the campaign, we also have cards, and one of these, this one, will give me an extra supply truck.
Really?
Yes. Right. So we go here. You can also use it to motorize your armies, but now we're going to use it to get an extra supply truck. There we go. And now up here, instead of 1, we now have 2. And this means we can get supplies to these guys. Let's do that. There we go. Boop. And lo and behold, now they're in supply. Okay, so they're good. And this guy, he is still just blocking here. He can move up 1 step. And now we... Oh, this guy. He's the one... This is an objective, a turn 2 objective. So we have to... get this going. And we need to...
So that's a unit that's heavily dug in.
It's only dug in once, so it's not unrealistic to harm it with an airstrike. And we did suppress 1 step, so... Oh, this could get bloody. Let's just do it anyway. Oh, painful. Really? Really? I don't care. We will get this. And we got our prestige. You would also, this is a card objective, which means if you take this, you should get a sometimes random, sometimes set card as a reward. We didn't get one because we haven't implemented that system yet, but I think it's something they're working on right now, actually. Anyway, we still got our prestige, so hopefully it was worth it, although we did bloody our divisions a little bit in doing it. And the Italian First Army has placed its headquarters here. Good idea. We'll just eat that. And secure the objective. And that's it for these guys. Let's head north.
Could we advance with that tank even further?
We could advance further, but then we have to leave the objective, and then the AI would
Take it
most
back.
definitely take it back, and we would lose our prestige. So we're gonna leave him here. Plus, he's relatively weak. He only has 2 steps. I don't want to send him on an adventure out here where we don't know what's going on.
But we can recon still. We have.
Oh yeah, we have the aerial recon. Let's actually have a look. Because
Let's scout ahead.
Let's see. What our aerial recon does is, well, you'll see it now. It doesn't lift the fog of war. It just shows you if there's a unit there.
So is there anybody there?
There is nothing here. It's all green. And since I'm the scenario designer, I know there's one over here. So I'm just going to throw one here to show how it looks. There we go. So now we know there's an infantry unit here. It's a weak one, that's the minus, and it's German. And if it had been a tank, let's say, then there would have been a little tank here. And if it wasn't weak, without the minus. So it gives you sort of, aerial recon gives you an idea of what's going on, but it doesn't lift the fog of war.
I still want to push through with that tank.
You still want to go through this tank?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. You sure? Okay. Oh boy. It's like he might actually not take it because he still needs to get through this area with a Zoc and then.
Well, let him take it. We'll take it
yeah,
back.
he'll just he's gonna overextend himself. So, yeah. Okay. In the north, where we failed I failed miserably last turn. Let's just go for this guy here. Screw him. This is our objective, so we don't really have to take this part, although it is the supply line. Mm-hmm. Oh, more prestige, sweet music. Yeah, we're gonna leave this guy for now. Advance slowly. Yeah, we don't have that many units up here, and they have a lot. They're not very strong units they have, but they're in good positions, and we don't want to overextend, so we're just going to leave it at that. And down here, we need to remember to remove our supply. We also had 2 supply hubs down here. I just removed them. Next turn, I'll be able to place them somewhere else on the map, because right now we don't need them down here. We just placed the 2 over here, so we're still relatively well in supply. Our little move out here will, yeah, these guys are out of supply, but it'll be okay. It's only 2 units. Yeah, I think that's about it for our turn. Let's see what the AI gets up to, and I'll have a drink. It seems we left the hole up here. Or I did, because I was so focused on taking this objective that they actually. But luckily, he couldn't reach our supply hub here. If the AI or yourself as a player, if the enemy runs over a supply hub, then you don't lose those trucks, but they go into your sort of into your truck reserve. But they have I think it's a 3-turn delay, so it's 3 turns before you can use them again.
But he doesn't capture them and...
He doesn't capture them and take them. We are currently actually discussing whether or not taking one of these supply hubs should supply your units. So let's say you have a unit that's out of supply, it's like deep into enemy lines.
Right.
You run over a supply hub, and then that supplies the unit. It's
like
something
automatically, or
yeah,
you are just able to
it supplies
supply him
it
by,
like eats.
by hand.
So if it was out of supply, it'll supply itself by running over an enemy supply hub. But that's, yeah, it's currently being discussed, so we'll see what the final decision then ends up being. Okay, so we're at turn 3, so if we want the full prestige reward for Svax, we need to take it this turn. And let's see if it's still only a weak infantry. We might actually be able to take it with this guy. Haha. What is this? Küstenabschnitt Svax. Yeah. Green single step. Not a big challenge for armored division, even if it is a weak armored division. Actually still have the movement points to take it. We're gonna want something stronger. Sure. That nobody kicks us out. So, do I actually have you to thank for us taking this on time? I think so.
Yeah, I'll take credit for that, and you take the blame for this guy.
Yeah,
up
this
there
guy, yeah, exactly, this guy. But this guy, we just
behind our lines, wreaking havoc.
Yeah, he didn't get there. He was close but no cigar. There are no rewards for second place. Let's just bomb him and use. Oof. Okay, we are gonna. Okay, I have a plan. We're gonna saturate. We're gonna use saturation fire on this guy here, and then we're gonna kill him with this guy, and then we're gonna use our tank to drive around. And oh yes.
Oh, so the tank is blocked right now?
Yeah, it's blocked right now. Get there. 70% retreat chance. I know my RNG.
And if
I know my RNG. This
so
won't
if he
work.
retreats, he will still block us.
There we go. Now, I'm moving this guy, and now I can reach this guy here. Take these guys prisoner, kill him. I'm a tactical genius. Let's see here, so that doesn't happen again, and we'll clear out this next turn. Although, since we used the tank for this, we can't use it to take Chiron, which was a turn 3 bonus objective. Yeah, well,
It's actually says turn 4.
oh, it's turn 4.
So we still have time.
We still have time. We'll get,
Yeah.
we'll get it next turn. Okay. These guys up here can just sort of crawl through slowly but surely. And down here we have some cleaning up to do. I feel like I'm
Cleaning up.
really cleaning up. This is very satisfying. Destroying surrounded out of supply units. It's it's very cathartic.
It's also what Unity of Command is about.
It's what it's all about, basically. It is cutting the enemy off from
And
his
circle
supply,
and
weakening him in that way, and
destroying.
then finishing him off, taking our objectives, moving on. So, let's go running. We have one aerial recon left. We're gonna screw up his... He's got prisoners. Just keep rolling, as Limp Bizkit would say. I just gave away my age. Yeah, these guys can wait here. They have fun in the desert hills. Okay, supply. We need some supply over here, so we're gonna place a dump there. They're in supply now. We need more supplies. So we also need to move this headquarters down here. British 8th Army.
Is there a reason why we are moving this?
Yes, there. As you can see here, the white outline. Every headquarters has a command radius. If you leave that radius, your unit still functions normally, but then you can't deploy reinforcements to them. You can't perform special actions, so you can't give them emergency supply or make a special attack. And in general, it's just a good idea to keep your units within range of their headquarters as far as it's possible.
But this is a new mechanic.
This is a completely new mechanic. Headquarters weren't present in the first game.
So now we have supply, range, and we also have
headquarters range. Yes, right. It's been a big challenge to make it easily readable, but we think we've succeeded. But that was a big challenge. But it is, for us, it's really fun and easy to read once you know what you're doing, which does take. I mean, it does take a bit of time to learn the game, but it's not as bad as other games, in my opinion.
So, say, what happens if I don't move it this
If
turn?
you don't move it this turn, well, nothing happens, except you can see these, you have the white outline, which is your command radius, and then you can see which units are under this HQ's command. They get a little white circle under them. And this guy up here, he has a red circle, because he is part of the British 8th Army, but he's out of its command range. So if next turn he doesn't have any supply, let's see, he's out of supply, then next turn I would like to give him some emergency supply maybe, but since he's out of command range, I can't do that.
Right.
So that would be an example of why it's good to keep your units within supply range. So let's move
It's
this.
a good idea to move it then.
Yeah, let's move him up here, but we're gonna place some supply anyway. And we're gonna put it, let me just see, we're gonna put it here. Let's give them 2, so they have a bit of leeway. Here we go. Did I forget anything? No. We're good now. Yeah. We're good. Let's go to the alley. Have another drink. God damn it. Not it. Pour me a drink.
Yeah, I will. You'll need it.
Ante has a very special drink here.
Yeah. This is my third job.
Yeah?
I'm also a bartender,
Mm-hmm.
besides marketing person and janitor.
I like you best as a bartender, I must admit. Thank you very much, good sir. And let's see what's going on now. Okay. I didn't actually look at the AI making its moves.
Let's see how you dig yourself up from that hole.
Ah, boy. Yeah. Well, good news and bad news. Good news, these guys down here, they have now been out of supply for 3 turns, so they are almost useless. We can just mop them up now. We have a bit of lag because of our recording software, which is why you might see some jumps sometimes. But
Right. Blame it on the recording software.
yeah, because the game is perfectly smooth when you're playing.
Of course.
Let's see.
It's perfect in every sense.
In every sense. Oh, and here we get another thing. So while you're playing, every time a unit gains experience, it also gains experience for its own headquarters. And there are basically your headquarters level up like this. And once you hit the target threshold, then you get this little upgrade menu. And here we have 3 free choices. You always have the choice of either upping your command points, which is let's call it currency you use for performing actions with your headquarters, or you can specialize some of the actions the headquarters already has available. Which ones you can upgrade here, that's sort of picked by the game at random, so you never know what you're gonna get, and it sort of adds a lot of variation to the gameplay. Here we can choose to specialize bridge demolition, so blowing up bridges. We can make that cheaper in terms of command points. It's going to cost us 20 prestige. Or we can upgrade our saturation fire, which is a special artillery attack, and that's free. So this is actually a bit of a no-brainer, because saturation fire is very useful, and we get it for free. So we're going to take
So this is an upgrade just for the unit?
for the headquarters over here. This was the US 2nd Corps over here. So now if we go down here to saturation fire, there's now a little 1. It used to cost 2, now it only costs 1.
So it's cheaper to use. It's not more powerful.
No,
or anything.
no. It's just cheaper to use. But that can have a huge impact, because now we have over here, we see the command points. We have 4. Before it cost 2, so we could do it twice every turn. Now it costs 1, so we could do it 4 times in a turn. It's actually a really powerful upgrade. It might be a bit too powerful to look into the balance tomorrow. But yeah, let's just take some action and mop up down here. Oh, that's annoying. No, we still. Prisoner, and then we're only this guy. And basically we have made up the south now. And now this annoying, I can't use the word I want to use. He needs to go away, let's say. Ooh, there's a bug there.
I haven't seen anything.
No, nobody saw
The game
this.
is still perfect.
Exactly. I don't know why we just don't release it right now.
Oh, we could.
We could. We just don't feel like it. Let's see. More mopping up. Basically, we have broken the enemy in this. It's a mopping up operation now. which incidentally I find almost more fun than heavy combat. Just clearing out the enemy and sweeping across the map. Let's see. This guy, and then we can move. Okay, so we want to take this bit here. I can't get through because there's this guy in the mountains. He's exerting a zone of control here.
So how do you know
that this guy is
exerting his zone of control?
Well, in the beginning, just when you learn the game, we have a map mode for it there. Here we can see where the enemy exerts zones of control. Once you've played the game for a while, you know that if there's an enemy unit and he has 3 steps or more, then he exerts zones of control on all his neighboring friendly hexes. It sounds complicated when you say it, but it's a very simple, intuitive system once you play it. And it's pretty normal.
And especially if you play turn-based strategy games.
Exactly.
Games,
it's
like
most games.
Well, let's say I don't play them.
Yeah,
so
then you need to learn it.
It's an aura.
It's an aura. That would be a good generalized sort of. If you're a non-war gamer, that would be a good way to explain it. But
if you say so.
Yeah, I think so at least. Okay, we could do something kind of silly now. Let's do that. Okay. But then I need to guard my objective here. But this means these guys could go in and screw up my supply. But I will blow up the bridge. And now they can't. I actually need to... Okay, they might go down here. It's fine. We have lots of reinforcements coming up.
You also have an airstrike left.
I keep forgetting about the airstrike. Let's just turn off the labels and see who do we want to... This guy. Again, my RNG is just ridiculous. Fun fact from our development, that's that the AI do its thing, is that I've made a few bug reports because I have so bad RNG that I tend to think the game is bugged, but then it turns out it isn't. Yeah. Or, I'm just finding someone to blame. I don't know, or something to blame.
As a marketing person and a gender, I would just like to make this clear that the game is performing fine in every aspect, and there's nothing wrong about it.
No.
It just keeps getting better and better.
So, when you have an enemy headquarters and you're able to, so you can't attack them like units. You can run them over. It costs 3 movement points, I think. So if you have a unit, this guy over here, he doesn't have 3 movement points to if you move here, so he can't kill that headquarters essentially. But luckily we have some other units that do. There goes the Africa Corps.
So what happened there?
Basically, we killed the enemy headquarters. It will give.
There was a lot of text.
There was a lot of text.
Yeah.
We basically, you killed the headquarters, so we ruined all his the branches in the headquarters. It's a bit complicated to explain. Basically, we really screwed him over. that would be the technical definition. Really.
Thank you.
But let's just finish up this level because we have basically won. Except our tanks are behind, so let's up and these guys we're not going to move them all. We don't need them. Let's just throw in this. And let the AI try. It doesn't have much to work with anymore.
Oh, so you say?
Yeah, this
it's counterattack.
Attacking with the 3-step Italian division.
Well, that's bravery right there.
It's bravery, but it's... I was probably saying about that. Let's see. Actually, I didn't need to kill that. I need to kill this guy. Let's just... It's actually going to be
the last turn?
Yes, the last turn, but it'll succeed. It will succeed, but it's going to be is Lost Division. This is what we found out in the last stream. In the last stream, that talking and playing at the same time for me is like, it's really. There we go. Don't worry. It's all under control. It's this is fine meme is running right now. Yeah, so that was the last objective. We have basically won. Let's just make sure that the guy doesn't do anything silly, like break through our lines, and just get that running again. And my voice. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Well, congratulations.
But apparently I won.
Brilliant. Did you
victory.
just win?
Yes. Pay no attention to what you see behind
To the glitch?
picture
Yeah.
screen. That doesn't matter.
We totally didn't use any of the cheats that.
No.
We don't have those.
We don't have any debug modes.
This is
or
pure
bug
skill?
modes or pure skill, of course.
A victory.
That's
well
how I got
deserved.
my job. That's the skill.
So amazing. Brilliant victory, you
yeah,
say.
Brilliant. Jesus. Okay.
Okay.
So we're back to the campaign. We completed Wadi Akarit, and we're on to Tunis, the next scenario. Sadly, because we have a crash, we won't see that units.
What crash?
What crash? I don't know.
I haven't seen
I'm
anything.
speaking insanity. But because of this, our units won't have been affected by combat because we basically just skipped the first scenario now to get to the second one. Usually, units carry over. So if you mess up your units really bad, they'll be really weak in the next scenario. You do in the deployment phase at the beginning of a scenario have the opportunity to then reinforce them for prestige. Which
Can we do that now?
we can do that now, although we're in pretty good shape because
Of the brilliant
the
victory.
brilliance of the first scenario. Let's see. So, as it says up here, deployment. This is the deployment phase, and we had our little briefing as well. Let's actually take a look at that briefing. Here we go. Yeah. Basically, what this tells us is our main attack is going to be with the US 2nd Corps and British 1st Army, and the British 8th Army is more there as sort of moral support at this stage.
They are praying for us.
Exactly. Historically, this was because they were pretty run down by charging all the way from Egypt to Tunisia, basically. So they gave their best units to...
Just to be here today with us.
Yeah, exactly. No, they gave their best units to the British First Army. They used them, and what they had left, they basically made a line here and didn't move. We might change that in this play, though. Let's see. Anyway, let's get to reinforcing our units. Up here, we have a guy. Let's give him an infantry step. And down here are dear New Zealanders. Oh, I love this model.
Which one?
The New Zealand one. These guys. You see them up here. They have that little, I forget what the hat's called. But it's not the same as the Australians have. It's another one. Anyway, let's get them some reinforcements as well. And that's our armored divisions need to be up to. Let's give them.
But it says on the objective screen that you're not supposed to really use them, or you're not supposed to lose any units.
Yeah, but I'm a
It's
rebel.
one of the bonus objectives.
It is. One of the bonus objectives up here, 2nd New Zealand Division, lose less than 1 step. That means we are not allowed to take losses with this New Zealand division. The reason that objective is there is because at this stage in the war, the New Zealanders had been used very heavily and were sort of at a point where we would like to not have a lot of casualties for a little while. And this is why we represent that.
So will you pull them back?
No, I'll just keep them here and not attack too much with them. Or if I attack, only against units where I'm certain that they won't take any casualties. Let's see our US Armored Division up here. Let's give him some mobile artillery and... what else? What else do we want to give him? Do we want to give him some reconnaissance? There we go. Americans up here. And let's give them infantry. And finally, this armored division. So mobile artillery and recon as well. There we go. That should do it for now. Oh, final thing. Indian division. Fully up to strength. And now we only have 10 prestige left anyway, so let's save that. Okay, ending the deployment phase and going to turn 1. In this scenario, this is the final scenario in North Africa. This was it's called Tunis. The operations in question were called Vulcan and Strike, for those who are interested. Basically, your objective is to destroy what's left of the Axis forces in Tunisia. And you do this by taking their two last major ports, which is Tunis and Bizerta. We also have some bonus objectives floating around here. A long stop hill here, Matur, and Kilibia out here. I am probably butchering those names.
Well, let's hope you butcher the enemy as well.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, we have Longstop Hill. They are fortified, so we're going to use a piece attack and move in. We got their fortification level down. Move in our armor, attack them again, reach, and they retreat. We can't move this guy because he used set piece attack, so we're going to move this guy instead. Om nom nom, prestige for us. Let's see.
Isn't exactly butchering them.
Well, this is one of the not.
You're off to a good start. I'll say.
I like this scenario. It's sort of
because you made it.
yeah. I just realized that sounds a bit. I like this. Oh, who made this? Such genius design. Let's see. We're gonna basically. My main sort of axis of attack is gonna be up through here, and with the British First Army up through here. US Second Corps in through here, and then nibble a little bit with British 8th Army over here. So we made a sort of semi-breakthrough here. Let's see if we can... Oh, Italian. There we go. These guys here, they are what I talked about earlier. The units from the British 8th Army, which have been detached to the 1st. So we're going to move them to that flank instead. Also, they can back. We're a bit open here. Around, and like I said here, just nibble a little bit.
So I noticed you play with hexes on.
Yes, I prefer.
Is this how you prefer it?
Yes.
But is this a default state?
There's a discussion about that.
This is the reason why I'm asking.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching this.
This is a layup. Like, let's see.
So maybe it would be prudent to.
Yeah, I mean,
turn it off. I'm not saying for the duration. Maybe for
a little bit.
For a little bit, yes.
For a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
But I mean, why would you play without hexes? Only a madman.
Nobody knows.
Oh boy,
it's important to show that there's this option.
Yeah. Okay, we'll play a little bit without hexes. See how badly I do. And up here, these are strong German units and they're dug in, but we're Americans, so we have a lot of artillery. So we're going to use these guys. I don't want to take Mature until turn 3 anyway.
Well, we still have some air power.
And we shall. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is why I'm not a drummer. Two things at the same time. No. That was nice. This was, and I think we're done. Let's just check the supply. Yeah, this scenario is not too tricky with regards to supply because it's not that large. We have lots of hubs up and running. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Let's see how much stuff they have behind their lines. I can't do this without hexes when I'm doing recon, so...
Go back to that.
I just need one.
I'm sorry to mention this, but your expertise is the game mechanics. And
so they say.
And the scenario design as well. And lots of other things. So the only thing I really notice is how nice the game looks. So this is my contribution to this conversation and stream. So
the game does look great though, but I can't take any credit for that. That goes.
I just wanted to mention that I have noticed that the game now looks really nice.
It looks really nice. We have recently got new desert textures and new desert cities, so the desert looks great now, in my opinion. And so does these little the African villages and towns. They have a different look now than in Europe, which was the plan all along. But we're a small team, so. One thing at a time. Anyway.
Carry on. I'll come back to the looks.
Yeah, we'll come back to the looks. Give that some love because it really deserves it. Let's see. Oh, up here. we're gonna do. Let's see. That's fine. Okay. Let's see what our dear AI comes up with. Ooh, here's a bug for our AI programmer.
What bug?
The AI just left this.
Well, we don't know this. Maybe it's a trap.
Maybe it's a trap, but I think it's a bug. Full disclosure.
We'll call it a trap at this point, and we'll investigate.
Full disclosure, right now our what we're primarily working on is the AI, and this is a fresh build, so stuff might be broken that I don't know about with regards to the AI. But it's really coming along nicely. It's wait a second. Yeah, it's no, the AI is really coming along nicely, but it is still in a what would you call it, testing phase. So we're sort of turning one knob here, and then another one turns in another place.
Well, basically, this is the first time we are showing the game. If you don't count that 2 hours.
2 hours of rambling.
Last time during Gamescom.
Yeah, that was the most professional thing I've ever done in my life. It was, yeah. Basically, like I said at the time, I'm going to say it again now. I always had respect for streamers, but now I have even more so because it is actually, yeah.
Because now you are a streamer as well.
Yes, of course. I add this to my CV.
So this is your newfound respect for yourself. Well, I'm glad for you, man. You're also really good as a wording. This is all progressing nicely.
It actually is. No, I was speaking about energy. I just proved myself wrong because
it was a trap.
Ow! That was painful. That was painful.
Okay.
That was painful.
It was unnecessary, but
yeah. Ooh, here we got an upgrade. Let's see. What are we gonna do? We can upgrade either emergency supply, bridge repair, or command points.
So can we say later? And
we can also say later. You have to do it the same turn. Let's say we didn't have any prestige, then you'd have to take the free one.
Right.
But you might have a chance to earn some prestige during the turn. And then you can just say later. We get a little message here in the corner. And if we click it.
How do we go back?
To this?
Yes.
Press later. And down here there's a message. We can upgrade the second US second core. You just click it.
And if the message expires?
It doesn't expire.
It doesn't
when you
expire.
get to the end of the turn, if you press end turn and there's still that message there.
Some of my messages expired. This is the reason why I'm asking.
Ah, in that sense. Yeah. That is actually not my area of expertise. That is
the expiring messages.
Tomislav, our that's Tomislav, the dear leader. That's his. That's him.
He's the expert on
messages and when
that
they
expire.
Yep.
It's good to know.
He actually might be in the chat right now. We're not sure. He talked about it. So if he's not, I'm a liar. If he is, then ask him questions.
I will do that.
Yeah.
And if anybody has questions, feel free to ask us. Either here in the chat or on the forums.
Why can't... Oh, I moved him. Yeah. Here. And our dear Indians there. Okay. Up here. Nice. Completely. What am I
We
missing?
could have taken this supply dump as well.
Wait, this one? Oh, we can still do that, but then we leave the... Ooh, we can actually... There we go. Okay. So we are closing in on our objectives, and the enemy is really in a bad position. There's no way around it. Let's just check our supply before we end the turn. Everything looks fine. Doink. My turn. Oh, I need to get a drink. We are, by the way, absolutely not drinking vodka and Red Bull. That would be an insane assertion to make.
Also, endorsement.
Endorsement, yeah, exactly. Oh. Should have taken money for that.
Well, they can still pay us if they
Yeah.
feel like it.
Yeah. We're gonna need some power. Let's use our airstrikes for one. Not the best of rolls. Could have been worse. What do we want to do? Let's take... Which turn do we need Bizerte on? On turn 5. Okay, we have 2 turns. We can actually focus on Tunis, because that is there. The access supply sources are Tunis and Bizerte, so if we take this, everything down here will be out of supply.
Can you zoom in a bit?
What do you want to see?
Is that a little airport?
Yes, that's an airport.
So what happens if we take that?
Currently, not anything. Right now, they are purely cosmetic.
But
but
I sense a but here.
there's a but. We would really like to, in our DLCs, to expand upon the air part of the game. We had planned to do it in the core game, but it turned out to be too much new stuff. Essentially, the game would become too complicated too quickly.
Oh, you think?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Like everything that you have shown us so far is
Well, it's
not is not enough.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where the game is very intuitive to play. Wink, wink, marketing, but it really is. But to explain it in words is complicated.
I think you're doing a really good job so far.
Yeah. We'll let the people judge. Anyway, let's focus on Tunis and screw up their supply. They're dug in, and it's a city, but it's not a super strong unit. And there we go. Yoink. And now they are screwed with their supply over here. They still have a little bit here, but we'll deal with that next turn. Down here. Cross this river? No, we can't. Do we have a bridge building here? We do. Let's see if we can show that. So, I think we've already shown that you can blow up and repair bridges, but you can also build bridges anywhere, if your headquarters has that ability. So, if there's a river you want to cross and the bridge is far away, or the bridge is blown up or blocked or whatever, and you have a free place where there's no enemy units, you can just build a bridge and then next turn you can cross there. It's surprisingly useful in a lot of scenarios. But we don't really need it right now. Let's just show it, even though we don't need it. We'll put one here. Yoink. There we go. And next turn I can go from here to here. But let's get close in on Bizerte. It would have been nice with some powerful armor unit when we use them. Let's just do this. Whoops. Ooh, something players of the first game will appreciate. We now have multiple undos, as long as you don't, engage in combat or move the Fog of War. If you, let's say you moved 5 units without doing any combat or changing the Fog of War, then you can undo all 5 moves.
So as long as there's no encounter,
Yeah.
you will be able to undo.
Yeah. You're there. I think we're good. Let's just see. Supply is fine. AI turn. Oof. Because I'm the designer, I know that wasn't a core unit, so it doesn't matter that much. Actually, I will not talk about that now, but in just a little while, about units carrying over.
Is there a way you can tell core unit from
That is
a scenario unit?
That's currently being designed, actually. I was just talking to the dear leader about it today. We have a few options on the table.
So what does he say?
Only wise things.
As always.
As always. Let's see. Oh, beautiful. Oh, come on, really? Okay, yeah. Retreat path. And let's get a strong unit neighboring Bizerte so we can take it next turn. And who do we finish this guy off with? problem we had in the first game was that it was a lot of fun, but the learning curve was very steep, and we have changed this time around. So the first scenarios are easy, but the difficulty slowly goes up. And especially if you move into ahistorical situations, then the difficulty really goes up. Yeah, this will do. We're gonna win next turn, probably.
So what are you saying, that it was easy for American troops in Africa, or?
Are you trying to get me into political trouble? Because
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
like,
From the marketing
in the
perspective, we can always use a scandal.
yeah, exactly. Any, what is it? Any exposure is good exposure, or what's the saying? It's a bit annoying that our.
But let me get this straight. This isn't the tutorial, right?
No, this is the real deal. This is the campaign. What's going to change from what
The second scenario in
yeah,
in the
second
campaign.
scenario in the campaign. What's going to change from what you're seeing right now is the AI. That's what we're working on heavily right now. It's getting there, but it's not there yet. It needs to. It's very tricky to balance. It needs to both preserve its forces. It's playing as the Germans, or the Axis, so it doesn't have a lot of forces to spare. But at the same time, it also needs to be aggressive. It needs to jump on the player when it sees an opportunity. This is a very tight balancing act. But it's good. Let's see. He's up there, and now we only have a bonus objective out here. Let's get to it as much as possible so we can get to Husky. Let's see, do they have any units? Oops, we need some. We need some aerial recon over here. Let's just send some hexes. Bloody armored. But he's been out of supply for 2 turns, so he'll be basically all his steps will be suppressed next turn, so it'll be easy to take. These guys down here.
Not to mention the airstrikes that we still have.
Oh, jeez. Do I get a prize if I remember them at some point? What is this guy? 90th Leichte Afrika Division. My German is also one of my big talents. Oops. Everything is clear up here. We just have these, basically surrounded supplyless troops. Let's just let them have a turn and finish it off.
So here's a question for you. Do you always play from the same perspective? You don't rotate the map, or?
I usually don't rotate the map.
You just find a view that you're satisfied with?
I find a view
or you just use the default?
I usually use the default. For me, I use the default. I've noticed when showing the games to like streamers, reporters, whatever, that some actually do like roll the camera around. For me, no. I'm sort of a more old school wargamer. Just take the standard perspective and ace the scenarios. All the time.
It makes sense. You made it standard. You designed it.
Yeah, I was about to say. Well,
you picked it, right?
Pretty much. So it sort of makes changing so much. Okay, that was the last objective. I can't tell myself. It is very satisfying finishing troops that are out of supply. Whoops. I really wish that sort of thing. Recording. Yeah. Do we have... Oops. Did you get an overrun? Okay, we'll need these last guys to survive. And we forgot about the airstrikes.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, and we're back.
Another brilliant victory.
Another brilliant victory.
Looked almost like a glitch,
No,
but nothing happened there.
You're seeing things. You're seeing things. In all seriousness, our newest build seems to have some issues with finishing scenarios. Right
But
now.
still a victory, well deserved.
But still a victory.
Congratulations.
All the same. So we're just going to quickly go past this and not talk about that. And we're on to Husky. And we can sort of see we've cheated because we have 0 in score in both of these. But
We're moving on to Husky.
we're moving on to Husky, not looking back. The future is what's important. A small thing that's really cool is we also have our main map of Europe, where we can follow what's going on the Eastern Front as the front line changes, and our own progress.
This is obviously work in progress.
Oh yes,
it's not done yet.
We still need. We have. What's it called? England looks kind of not the right color
there.
here. It's there, but it sort of looks like it's occupied by Germany,
Yes.
which it isn't. But yeah, no, it's work in progress, but it's getting there. Anyway, let's go back to our close-up view and Husky. Husky, as those of you who know World War II will know, was the name of the operation of the invasion of Sicily. And this is also the first scenario in the game, outside the tutorials, where you get to try out naval landings and paratroop operations and all the good stuff. So basically, I'm just gonna start. And let's start with the American beach over here. Fun fact here. What we took there was a bonus supply, bonus objective that gives us extra supply. Up here on the top, you can see supply says 60%, before it said 50. When it said 50, it basically means there's a 50% chance that your troops, even if they're in supply on the map, there's still a 50% chance they won't get supply. The more of these supply bonus objectives you take, the more you remove that risk.
Is there a reason why our units are under supply?
Yes, landing up.
That's good, as opposed to being totally random and we just made it up.
Whatever, we just make shit up as we go along. No, it's because landing operations were their biggest problem in World War II. Once you were beyond the beaches, was supplying them. You needed ports. And you needed to take the ports quickly, preferably, because the enemy has this nasty habit of blowing them up, so you can't use them. So here they are turn limited. If you don't take them in time, you don't get the extra supply for taking that port. This is a small one, so it doesn't grant us a supply source, but it gives us extra supply. This is a big one here, so we're going to take that one. That is an extra supply source. And let's just land these guys on the beach without, because doing assault landings is very risky and very bloody, so we're going to avoid that.
So how do you know?
I tried it and it didn't end well, basically. Let's see, let's move on over here to the Canadians and the British.
I was just leading you on to maybe show the...
What do you want to see?
How do you call it? The score sheet? With
The score sheet. Yes, in the old game.
Predicted outcome of the battle.
Oh, that one. Ah. Let's see here.
I was very subtle about it, so...
Yeah, I know, but I pick things up so fast.
Well, you picked it up, so it's good. So good.
Anyway, the score sheet. When you're hovering over an enemy unit, you select one of your own, hover over the enemy, you can attack. Then you get the score sheet. Let's see, can I do? No, I can't do that. Up here on the right, I'm pointing at the screen as if you can see me. Up in the right corner of the screen, there is a combat results page, is actually what it's called, I think, where you can sort of see the predicted outcome if you commit to that attack. It's not, you're not 100% sure to get that result, but it'll be within a reasonable range. And here, if we make an assault landing, it actually looks pretty decent, our chances.
Yeah, it doesn't look bloody at all.
The problem is they only have in the bottom of the sheet it says 50% retreat. If you don't make the enemy retreat, your division dies. You have to make the enemy retreat when you make an assault landing.
They are soldiers. They are soldiers.
Yeah, they are, so there's a risk, but we can still try to avoid that risk. We don't have to be so bloodthirsty, towards our own men, at least.
We have a war to win.
Yes, but I will do it in the least bloody way possible. And to this end, we're going to use some naval bombardment, which we have 4 of in this scenario, and we can see the beautiful ships lying off coast, ready to bombard people. And we're going to use it on these 3 guys. It already... These are very satisfying. They're very powerful, so you don't get a lot of them, but they do the trick. So basically now, instead of making this assault landing here, actually let's just do it. But we could just attack him with him and then land our troops with 0 risk. But he's so weak now, so we're just gonna an assault landing.
Oh, told you so.
And over here, oof, no, we're gonna surround him. There we go. And give him a tickle. We have our second supply source. Here. Okay, and with the we have, if we zoom in, you can see we have some blown bridges here. But our HQs, where are they? They haven't landed yet. They need a large supply source, like a port, to land. And once you have that, we have 2 here.
Can we switch to the supply view?
Yes. Wink. You also have beach supply.
Hmm?
You can see these ports, they function as normal supply sources. But along these coastlines where we landed, we have these little icons with little boats on them, which means on these beaches, as long as we don't leave them, we have supply there. If we start moving inland without a port, no supply. Yeah.
So we need to repair the bridges.
We need to repair the bridges so we get a functional supply line up and running along the rail here, and also so our troops can move around. And for that, we need to land our HQs, which we'll do from up here. We're going to land the Brits over here and our American one over here. And then we select the British one and this bridge and the American this one. We have one more blown over here, but we don't have our HQ doesn't. Basically, it's enemy territory. We can't reach it with our HQ right now.
It's not in the range.
Yeah. And we still have our American paratroopers. Where do you think we should drop them? Let's use your tactical genius.
My tactical genius?
Yes. Yes.
Can we see the supply
Of the enemy?
of the enemy? Yeah.
Yeah. And we can also do some aerial recon if you want to. So this is the enemy supply situation.
Can we zoom out a bit?
There we go.
So
You can't land anywhere. There is a right now. There's no visual border, but if we try over here, you don't have like limitless range. You can't just go anywhere. But within this area, I mean,
let me check the objectives first.
objectives. Whoops. Oh, they're on.
We need to take the airfield by turn 2.
Yeah.
And it's turn 1. So we still have time to get there.
Yeah.
And then we have to take 3 cities as well.
We have over here these two will give us extra supply. Right now our supply is only at 60%, so there is a 4 in 10 chance that units don't get supply, even if they look like units.
Can we switch to the enemy supply again?
No.
And where is the source of their supply?
That
Is
up
it the
here.
airports?
No.
Up here.
No, it's up here on the port. And they have their 5 hubs actually here.
So their main route of supply is along the coast in the north.
We have going down here and along here.
Okay, so can we land the paratroopers somewhere near those cities that we are supposed to take?
Which
Say Palermo.
up here?
Yeah.
We run out of range about here. You could land all the way up here
And cut their supply.
and cut their supply. This
Well, I would like to do that, but
It's a bit
maybe we can recon before.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see. Whoop. It's a weak Italian infantry.
How can you tell?
Because of the little minus on the what's it called? I forget what they're called. These icons.
Weaklings.
Weaklings. Yeah, but anyway, the minus means it's weak. The icon means that it's infantry, and the little flag it's Italian. So there's a weak.
That's
Italian.
double weak.
That's double weak. You said that.
No, I did not.
Yeah, you take full responsibility.
No, you just
Send
said
your
they were-
complaints to Ante Verdele.
Let's
2
just
by 2 games disavows
let's just
anything.
land our paratroopers right on top of their head.
Okay, let's try.
Can we do that?
We can do that. Actually, I think this range is too long. It might change for release, but we're not at release.
Why would you change it? Because my tactic worked brilliantly, and
overrun.
we have overrun the enemy,
Yeah, and cut the entire supply here.
and now you want to change it for the final game.
Because it might be considered slightly exploity, but we'll see how the AI handles it, because it should have the power
I
to...
know that you are doing this just to spite me.
Probably. Okay, let's play.
I am.
Yeah.
That was my brilliant move. So
Okay.
let's see what you have.
Let's see. Do we have anything else to do? No, we landed everything. We have an airstrike. We can use it on this guy. But he's in a city, and I don't want
Yeah,
to
use it.
But I don't want to ruin the city. There's a chance to turn the city to rubble, and that would be bad. However, what we want to do is this guy here. I'm gonna give him something called rear guard. Wink. There we go. If he's attacked now, he won't take any losses. He'll just retreat back to this hex. In case there's some German armor coming to attack him. I wouldn't know anything about that as the scenario designer. It's a headquarters ability in the operations branch. Anyway, let's end it here. Let's see what happens. I'm excited to see how I absolutely did not have a hunch. Oh boy. This is actually useful testing because the AI should react to this up here.
To my brilliant move.
So your brilliant move. You should
Oh,
be reacting
there's
to it.
no really there's no way to defend against
Tactical brilliance.
tactical brilliance such as this. So it's all going according to plan.
Yeah. However, my tactical brilliance brought this German army division into a bit of a trap because he didn't get to kill the paratroopers, and now he's bordering our English infantry here with artillery. Let's also give him just to make sure. And this is how you finish off the Hermann Göring division without taking any losses.
Everything going well for you so far?
Everything is going very well. Right now I'm actually trying to play properly.
Right. Then I would like to talk a little bit about how gorgeous this game looks, and about the engine and how it was done from scratch. There's even a name for this brand new engine. And although the game is called Unity of Command, the engine is called Unity. The name is apparently taken, but we do have a commercial name, right?
We do have a commercial name. I actually think it's very neat. Go ahead, you say it.
No, you say.
Okay, it's called the Zero Sum engine, and it has been a huge challenge for the programmers to make it, but it's turned out really well. Very stable, very smooth, lots of possibilities if you're a programmer. I'm not, so...
So is there a reason why the engine was created?
Yes, but I
mean-
can't say that.
I mean, wouldn't it be easier?
To buy one off the shelf?
Yes.
Yes.
Use that.
It would have been easier. It would have been
have-
smarter, even, I think, because of the time it took. Now that it's done, it's amazing, because now the engine is... our programmers know it by heart, and it does all the things they need it to do, which might have been an issue with an off-the-shelf engine, but it took a while to develop it.
This is basically custom tailored to deliver whatever the game
Yes.
needs to show, and
Yes, it is basically made for games like this. I'm not a programmer, so I can't talk much about the technicalities of it.
well, me neither. This is why I'm constantly bringing up how good the game looks.
Okay, so I think I'm about done with turn 2. I mean, we didn't get there. We have these guys.
No,
Ooh, let's see.
no, but those are my guys. What?
Let's see up here. We don't have any way to supply them. So this is next turn. They won't be able to attack anymore.
Let's see the enemy supply situation.
Whoops.
Is there anybody to the right?
Let's see. We can't see. I used aerial recon for.
But never mind that. There's enemy to the left,
Mhm.
and if we move them out of place, then the enemy will be able to resupply everything to the left side of the map. So
Yeah.
I would definitely leave them in place.
If I bring up,
They know their duty.
if I bring up the terrain view,
Mm-hmm.
do you get any ideas for what would be a good idea?
Move them into the city.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I got that right.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
10 points. A+.
It's brilliant again.
So, even though they're out of supply, they're in a city, and it's going to take 2 turns before they're in big trouble. We will get up there in 2 turns.
We'll save them.
Guess what we have left? An airstrike. Germans over here. We don't have any good attacks. That's it. Yeah, we're done. Ah. Because we didn't take that airfield, they got the German paratroopers there as reinforcements. This is what happened historically. The Germans flew in a large part of their 1st Airborne Division to the airfield there in Catania. So if you take it, they don't get to do that. But we didn't, so here is the 1st German Fallschirmjäger Division. We'll see if we can't rough them up. Oh,
So-
bad weather. Oh, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, we got a bit of bad luck here.
How do you know?
Because of this muddy patch here, you see. If we take not terrain weather, we got rain in this area, which means it's really difficult to move around unless you use the roads. So basically we're almost kind of stuck to the roads right now. Anyway, we are on a deadline for Palermo, Trapani and Marsala, so we want to just get rolling that way. And we also want to get these poor people into supply. So we're gonna go north.
Those are my guys.
Those are your guys?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna just...
They will do their duty.
They'll survive. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Do I have any reinforcements? Yes. I have the 2nd Combat Command. Let's move you here. Let's give you supply. And let's land the 2nd part of the US 2nd Armored Division. Or Italian conscripts. They are not having a happy one. Yeah, okay, so we're well on the way to these fuckers, and then we also need to go north. What do you want?
Maybe can we attack across the river?
We can, because it gives you a big malice, but this is a fully stacked up American infantry division with tanks and rangers and everything equipped against a single step of Italian conscripts. So
Lob a grenade across.
real lob a grenade across and it's done. It's done. Let's see. Other than that, let's see what's going on with the Brits. We're gonna need some bombardment to get across the river. Move in our own paratroopers. First airborne. And oh, come on. Ah. Poor people. Let's motorize these guys so we can... Oh wait, let's just do that. There we go. Here, well on the way to Messina. Everything is going great. What could possibly go wrong? Let's use our airstrike. Weaken them a bit. Oh, another thing. Let me just mention that. Right now, it's on a relatively easy difficulty level, or whatever you would call it. But if you are counterattacked while you're on the beaches, then you have this little ace up your sleeve, usually, as the Allies, which is naval defensive fire. So let's say if you have a... If I click the battleship down here, you see the white outline. Any unit you have in that area, if the enemy attacks it, the ship's bombards the enemy before they get to make their attack. So you're kind of not safe, but you're well protected.
It's like suppressive fire?
Yeah, pretty much. So any enemy attack against you in those hexes will be weakened considerably.
But we had a unit up there.
Hmm?
We had a unit up there.
Yeah.
At the
Here.
beginning, yes.
Yeah, but he was in this.
He wasn't in the range.
No, exactly. He wasn't in the range. That's why I gave him the rear guard ability. So I knew if they attacked him, he would retreat down here into the safe zone. And
Oh,
not
good
take
call.
any losses.
Good call.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is about. Oh boy, they are gonna be. Yeah, we'll get to them next turn, and then we'll give them some emergencies.
Leave my guys where they are.
I'll leave them. Let's see.
So they can do their duty.
Do we have any reinforcements? No, we don't. Okay, let's just move the headquarters up here and let's place some supply. Two, and we'll need one. Put them here. Boom. And we're in supply. And the reason the white bar here, which usually shows you're in supply, the reason it's sort of half red is because of the disruption I mentioned before. That you're in supply, but there's a chance you don't get it anyway. And in that case, then you have to use your headquarters to supply the units. And then you can't use the headquarters to perform special actions. It makes for a fun little gameplay loop, as they would say.
Will I have to check for supply at the end of every turn?
Yes.
Or is this something that the game will try to communicate, or do they have to check manually?
We discussed having some automatic warnings if you have units out of supply, but it's too clunky. It is already now checking if you have supply. It's as easy as this. Just press V, and you can immediately see you can see here's the unit that's out of supply. And there's a big icon there, so it's very simple to just check it. Would be the short answer. Okay, let's get to the next turn. I'm not super happy with the AI in this build, but as we said, a work in progress.
Well, there's nothing he can.
There's not much he can do.
against-
We really screwed him
against this brilliance
over. First of all, we really...
and the combined genius.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh, although I did... let's see here. Okay, let's just...
he might have surrendered as well.
He really should at this stage. There is not much... Oh! Mistake. Ay, ay, ay. Whoopsie. Yeah, well, we needed a bit of challenge. So just,
We can't undo that.
no. If you misclicks like that, just don't do them. It's the only...
Can I load the game if I screw up?
No, it saves at every action. You can restart a scenario. This will lower your score, but otherwise, yeah, restart it and you can progress through the campaign. But if you're playing for scores, then no. Because it lowers your score. Let's see. Hopefully we can break through here around Mount Etna next turn.
I think this might be a good time to go and save my guys, or at least try.
But I don't have the time for that. I want to get over here and get the supply. This is the thing.
You would go for supply instead of saving my loyal guys.
As you just said, we have a war to win.
You're heartless,
Oh
man.
boy, that was a big lag spike. But we're still sort of safe. Wait, where's our HQ? It's here. Okay, they're still in range. Oh, this is a bit risky, but we're gonna do it anyway. Charge up here because of this genius move. All the divisions over here are.
Well, thank you.
fully out of
Thank you.
supply.
You're welcome.
So we don't have much to fear. Where do we want to use our airstrike? We want to use it. Yeah, we'll get him next turn. Actually, we have a naval bombardment card, which gives us extra naval bombardment, and since we've run out, let's use it. And voila, next turn we will be able to bombard the enemy from the seas again. Supply-wise, we are... yes, a bit annoying. Let's... up this one. Oh. Okay. I think that's about it for this turn. Yeah. Oh boy, we've been going a while now as well.
It's been a long war, and we still have a lot to do.
And we're still only 5% of the way to Berlin, but yeah, it'll be fine. Okay. Please get an overrun. God, really? Really?
So you left my boys for nothing?
I left them for absolutely nothing. Come on, retreat. And oh, I can get Palermo. I get Palermo. But I don't get any of the supply ones, which means we'll be dealing with 60% supply for this scenario and the next one. But the next one we can capture some more ports.
Oh, it carries over as well?
It carries over as well, to a degree. Even if you don't take any of these ports, once you get further up the boot in Italy, you'll get 100% supply. But in the first ones here in Sicily and then in Avalanche, which is the toe of Italy, it carries over to there.
So, if we took those additional objectives, then they would provide 20% more supply.
Yeah, you got 10% for each.
10%.
So then you would be up to 80, and 80 is already, that's pretty strong. That's like you almost don't notice it.
But if you are late for one turn, do we get 5%?
No, that's actually a good idea.
We get nothing?
We get nothing. That's the thing. But it might be an idea with the 5% thing. I'll speak to Dear Leader about it tomorrow. It's not a bad idea. Because it might be a bit rough to get nothing. It also makes sense because they were destroying ports in general, but it takes time to destroy a port. So even if you're like daylight.
Well, maybe not in this on this map, but if it carries over.
It carries over, but it doesn't carry over forever.
Forever. So maybe at the beginning of the next scenario, wherever that is, we could start with
5 of those. Yeah. But we
5%
also like
more supply.
That's true. But no. But I like the idea of giving you 5% if you're turned late. But if you miss it completely, then no.
It's very generous.
We also like to we like to punish our players. Let's see. Back here with the armor. Here's an annoying thing. We got the mud really likes to mess with us. Here. We go to weather mode here. So now the little range system moved over here. Which means, because this is only a minor sort of road going through these mountains, which means we can't use the road. So
you can advance, but slowly.
Slowly advance. We're going to move them up there. Leaves these guys in place. We're going to break through here next turn.
We can still bombard them, right?
We can use our ships. That is correct. Oof. That needs some work. Yeah, the ship should spawn sort of out here, facing the right way. Yeah.
It was a submarine.
It was a submarine
type of ship.
The French actually had a submarine called Surcouf, which had 203mm cruiser guns on it.
That's the one I was thinking of. So,
I know.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the difficulty needs some balancing in this scenario still.
Or a less skilled player.
Or a less skilled player. Are you calling our player base less skilled?
No, absolutely not. I'm calling you brilliant.
Yeah. Almost a nice save. Almost. Close. You almost got it. Okay, let's see. We're just gonna mop up these guys next turn. That will be no big problem. And we'll get to Messina. We still have tons of stuff to... Yeah, let's just use the...
But let's talk about our players. You said you designed this game to be easily accessible.
Yes.
And we have talked about a lot of stuff. So hopefully there'll be a tutorial.
There will be a tutorial.
To ease you in.
Yes.
As there are a lot of new mechanics and a lot of stuff is going on.
Yeah.
But let's say I enjoyed some of the games of this type before. What would those games be? Who is our target audience, so to speak?
Well, our target audience is, of course, regular wargamers. But we hope that the game is also easily accessible enough that if you are other players who aren't used to wargames might want to dip their toes. This was the strength of the first game, and we tried to keep it here for the sequel. Easy to learn, hard to master. It's a cliche, but none of the cliches become cliches for a reason. They're mostly true. And that's the thing about this game. You can play it pretty casually, just stroll along, progress through the campaign, or you can play it super hardcore and just try to min-max everything and get perfect scores and get all the way to Moscow. Not really, but
maybe one day.
There's a lot of maybe one day in the DLCs, as the Germans. But there's a lot of depth to it. So for those who are a bit more on the hardcore side, we like to think that there's also enough content for those people, as well as the newcomers. Because basically we want as many people as possible to play war games, so we can continue making war games, because we really like that. Yeah.
But there's another brilliant.
But there's a tutorial. Just to answer your question completely, yes, there will be a tutorial. Right now, the plan is for 4 scenarios. To sort of each one will teach you different aspects of the game. You can play if you just want one of them. Like, okay, I played the old game, so I know everything. I just need to know about this new stuff. Well, fine. Then you can jump to the relevant tutorial scenario.
So all of that will happen before you jump in.
If you so choose.
First scenario in Africa, it will happen before Africa or
before Africa, yeah. If you choose, you can also just jump straight into campaign and just learning by doing. Just try your luck, basically.
Right.
So it's up to you as a player, really. Do you want to play the tutorial or not? Right now, the plan is for the tutorial scenarios to be the Louisiana Maneuvers, which was a big American war games essentially in 1942. That'll be sort of the basic thing. Then there'll be Operation Torch, the landings in North Africa. And then the race for Tunis, which was the Allied attempt to get to Tunis in time before the Germans could reinforce North Africa. And then finally something called Operation WAP, which was what happened after the Battle of Kasserine Pass. I think it's fun to put the tutorial into a historical context. We could also just make one that just make up stuff as we go. But I hope it will succeed for us. We'll succeed in making it historically based as well. Let's see, we're just about done here. And we are very early. Only 6 turns in.
So if you completely wipe out these little pockets of enemy controlled territory, is there a bonus a player gets for doing that, or can we leave it like this?
Any decent human being can't look at this.
Besides
my OCD is just
the OCD.
My OCD is going insane. I'm like, I need to get there. But you're wasting an opportunity somewhere else. I don't care. I can't look at this. But no, there's no reward for clearing the map as such. There are rewards for killing enemy units, for taking prisoners, for killing enemy HQs, so on and so forth. But for just capturing territory, no, there isn't. Yet. We'll see what happens in the future, but there's no plans for it. But we don't want to encourage OCD.
But it's not expanding or doing anything.
No, it doesn't do anything.
It just looks like
this.
this.
Just there, it just looks like that. And if it's not blocking your supply line and if there are no enemy units in it, there's no reason to care about it, except for your OCD, and mine just can't handle this. I'll clear that next turn. And we'll have to mop up these guys over here. Oh, there's gonna be a lot of stragglers from that. Let's just this guy. Upgrade our headquarters. Let's get a command point.
Will it carry over?
Yes, this will carry. Again, apparently this build is having some issues with going from scenario to scenario in the campaign. So we'll see if we crash at the end of this. I hope not.
We won't.
Yes,
We haven't before.
We haven't before, exactly. We just got brilliant victories. Like, it was magic. Okay, let's use our... Oh boy. Oh, I love those naval bombardments. Let's move. We can also talk a bit about specialists. So the unit strength are the steps that we know. Little green dots, that's also like basic strength of the unit. And then you have the sort of the colored icons next to it. Those are specialists, which are additions to your division. So let's see here. Here we have the this is brigade, the 231st British Infantry Brigade, and it has engineers and 2 special forces attached, which is it's slightly abstracted, but it basically means it has a battalion of engineers, 1 of commandos, and 1 of Royal Marines attached, and all of these add sort of special. They both add raw combat power, but they also add a few special, what do you call that?
Abilities.
Yeah, not abilities, but effects. There we go. Effects to combat.
Mm-hmm.
So our engineers.
Like what?
This is a good example, because here we have engineers, and these guys in Messina are fortified. But because we have engineers, it lowers the effect of the fortification, and it will also remove 1 level of fortification when we attack.
How do you know this?
Because I designed this.
Where does it say? On screen.
It says,
Can you show us?
I could have, but I just pressed attack. I can show you next turn. It says, on the combat sheet.
Figures.
But we are done with this turn, so I can show you almost immediately.
How convenient.
Yes. Oh, I need some more Red Bull. And let's see. So, we're back to the same situation. Engineers, these guys are, well, now they're only dug in because we only attacked them once, but we can see up here in the combat sheet to the right, we can see the... That has not been implemented yet. That has not been implemented. We might need to edit this out or leave it in. We'll see. But the engineering bonus has not been
Well, I'm sorry for asking.
put in the combat sheet. Yeah.
Oh, let's just bombard them instead.
Let's just shoot at them. Let's just shoot at them with everything.
With our submarine ship.
The Surcouf. This is actually the war spy. But that's another. And here I know we have a little problem, because I also make the map, and I haven't made the Strait of Messina, so we can sort of just go across it.
Well,
We'll go over here.
if we
and
have
speak of that.
submarine ships, we also have
Submarine
amphibious tanks.
Yeah, we have everything. Everything your heart desires.
This game basically has everything.
But for those of us with OCD, there we go. And we're done. We took Husky. We didn't take our bloody bonus objective.
But still, another brilliant victory. What do you say?
Let's see. No, this is gonna be just a victory or a crash. Let's see. This is gonna need some editing. Oh boy.
But we still have 1 turn left.
We still have 1 turn left, so let's just go away, you stupid.
I think it was brave.
That was brave. That was brave.
It was heroic.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Utterly pointless, but
Let's try this again. You can also, when you take all of your objectives, you can continue playing. For those with OCD, so you can clear the map if you're good enough for that, or just end it and then crash. Doesn't work. But we knew that would happen. And we're back.
what happened?
we got a brilliant victory.
Another one?
Another one. Always brilliant victories. No, in all seriousness, this build is a bit unstable when it comes to finishing a scenario, which sucks, but we're in alpha, so we kind of just have to deal with that.
But we are finally out of Africa, and we are finally out of...
We're out of Africa,
Sicily.
we're out of Sicily, we're into Italy now. I jumped ahead a bit, or we jumped ahead a bit. We went past, we have 2 scenarios between Sicily, Husky, and Monte Cassino, which we're at now. That's Avalanche and the Volturno line. You'll have to see that another time, or when the game launches. Right now we're at Monte Cassino. Cassino is a good scenario to showcase because it has a little bit of everything. We have naval landings, air paratroopers, mud, mountains, rivers, swamps, forests, German tanks, German mechanized forces, German Gebirgsjäger, German Fallschirmjäger. We have some free French forces here. We have New Zealand Armored Division, Indian troops. Basically, this scenario shows you almost a little bit of everything. Not everything, but it shows a lot.
The game gets bigger and more complicated.
It gets bigger and bigger as you go
progress.
Along. Exactly. And we're not going to play this Stars of A.
This will probably take
tease.
2 hours or...
This would take an
so.
hour. I think
An
this
hour?
would take an hour. And okay.
With your skills, maybe, but...
Oh, okay. If I played it in my sort of development mode, then it wouldn't take me 20 minutes. But that would not be fun to watch.
That's a speed run.
That's a speed run, and it's not. Yeah, no, that one's not incredibly fun to watch. But we've been going for 1.5 hours, so yeah, we're gonna soon leave you with this beautiful image of the front line near Monte Cassino.
And we're going to play this another time.
Yes. And just before we go, I'm gonna say how in here we have Operation Shingle. The landings near Anzio, which didn't work out historically.
But you are able now to change history.
You are able to change history.
It
It's
doesn't-
difficult. You can progressing through the historical line. That should be for everyone. If you want to go down the ahistorical tracks, well, then you need to practice because it's difficult,
Right.
As it should be.
So what are we saying? If I want to go down the historical path, I just land there and do nothing, or...
You can just land there and do nothing and still complete the scenario. That is the safe route to just sort of claw your way through the Gustav line.
But say, what if I decide to push on and fight and go inland?
Then you can do that. It's tricky though. You'll need to have sort of upgraded your HQs, and you'll need to make all the right moves operationally. We're trying to avoid that. You also need luck, making it purely skill based. But there's always a little bit of RNG in any game, war games in particular. But no, if you want to push on and try to breach the Gustav line within the winter of 1944, that is perfectly doable. It just takes a bit of practice.
And luck.
And luck.
Right. Well, we'll see about that.
Luck follows the skilled. It's a Danish saying that doesn't work in English. But
Okay. We'll
Anyway.
take a short break now,
yes, we are.
and then we'll be back, and then we'll start over.
Exactly.
And we are going to,
Do this in perpetuity.
like, turn for turn is going to be exactly the same as we played all those maps before.
Exactly. We have very good memory to go along with our brilliant tactical skills. So
it's either that or we recorded this and we are
And
looping
looped
it.
it. Rumors, foul rumors. Don't believe.
It could go either way.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Anyway, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks
the stream.
everybody.
And yeah, we'll be back soon, hopefully.
If you
Cheers.
have any questions,
Oh yeah, if you have any questions, ask and we'll be answering.
let
in
us
the
know.
chat. Okay.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.